Hello and welcome to the fall of 2021 House of Lobkowitz newsletter. So we've had a lot of activity this past month, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about and discuss our October event, which was called Non-Fungible Castles, which we did here at the Lobkowitz Palace. It was a one-week exhibition, free exhibition, and followed by a conference afterwards, a really, we think, a one-of-a-kind conference for about 200 people. And this was around the space. What we wanted to explore here was simply the old world and old systems and the way we've been operating, where we meet the new world of tech and blockchain and crypto, and have a discussion. You know, be a bridge to this new world. And it was built around NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. And I have to be honest, 6 months ago I had no idea what an NFT was, but fortunately I have a son and a lot of young people working here, Will, who spearheaded this project. So Will, I'd like to just let you talk a little bit about the conference and maybe have a bit of a dialogue from two different generations trying to see, you know, what this means to all of us today. So will you take us through a little bit what happened?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first of all, non-fungible tokens are basically unique digital assets that are hosted on the blockchain. And they're completely immutable records. And what they're interesting in the sense that they have a lot of use cases. They provide an opportunity for artists to actually showcase some of their work as well, and allow the patrons to actually support them directly using blockchain. It allows for you to have a completely transparent provenance system, where you can actually see where these pieces are coming from. Very important in our own history as well, for the way that we've been able to actually restitute our pieces. And so
and it follows where they're going too, doesn't
correct,
it, in the
yeah.
future?
It does. So you'll see which wallets will hold it in the future, who has the piece at any time. So it's really quite interesting with the different use cases.
Describe the exhibition and the idea behind it, and maybe a couple of the artists that came there, and how we bridge the old world and the new world a little bit, and the inspiration on some of these things.
Well, the vision for this really was to create, to see whether there was any value in the crossover between the blockchain space and the cultural heritage space. And we wanted to explore that through a visual perspective, and that was the exhibition that we put on for a week here in the Imperial Hall of the Lobkowitz Palace. And we had hundreds of visitors coming in every day to actually see these pieces, and we had artists that came and created works that were inspired by the collections. We had crypto-native artists that just had their own works shown at the palace here. And
explain, if I could just stop you there for 1 sec, just explain how, like, there were things with algorithms and the inspiration of the art. How did some of the different artists do that, and what did they create?
So some of the artist-inspired pieces, we worked with two artists actually. One was Matthew Stone, who created an animated piece that was based off of a painting that we have by Bayeux, which is a Cabinet of Curiosities, and that's normally at Nelhusevest Castle. So they created a modern animated interpretation of that. Then on top of that, we worked with the artist collective Obvious, based in Paris, who had created two generative art pieces, which is art that's used by inputting data into an algorithm to create something else.
Again, inspired by things in the collection.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they took different maps that were in the library and archive that aren't currently on display, so it allowed us to show something else, and then created a generative piece using their algorithm that was then put on display. So that was quite interesting to explore.
Yeah. And it also led later in the evening, we had some interesting things that came up around restoration and some of the pieces that we were doing.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the idea behind that was we as the collections were trying to look for ways where we could explore this technology without going necessarily entirely into it just yet. We wanted to test some things out. And so we created pieces that were, tried to showcase things that you can't see in the physical world. We took one of our paintings by Paolo Veronese showing David and the head of Goliath. And we took the infrared and X-ray scans of that piece and animated it over this painting in this Dune digital piece that we created as an NFT. And that allowed you to see the underpainting where you could actually see a ghostly head in the underpainting of something that Veronese had painted before.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because it's another form of, I mean, what I got out of this was it's another form of patronage, you know, which is very important, but connecting people in a different way, but with the underlying base of the art. So it isn't like a copy of it.
Yeah.
It is an interpretation of it, but still leading to the same thing, which is that people then later on bid on some of these things, and then the monies generated went towards restoration projects. And
with that, in that specific case, though, this is a way to find ways to support the collections in the future. And then there were other pieces that we tested out that were simply that explored a concept we explored called proof of patronage, where there would be a piece in the collections that we would put up that would be in a desolate state, and people would purchase the NFT, which would only be a digital acknowledgement of the fact that these people actually paid for this philanthropic work. So it showcases how NFTs aren't just tradable digital assets, but how they can also be used to acknowledge some incredible work that a donor may have done.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting to bring in a new set of donors and supporters who can support us as a cultural institution in the future. But it also creates a use case for all forms of philanthropy, hopefully, as well. So,
and this was such a wonderful surprise to me, too, because we're all talking the same language. It's just different generations doing it in slightly different ways. And the result, though, the end result always has to be, have we restored these things, and can we make them available to the public, which is our core mission. And I'm really proud. I mean, that evening, in one evening, we did, I think, 31 restorations, wasn't it? 31
Correct.
Restorations. And that would have taken us probably 5 to 7 years to do traditional ways of writing and saying, will you adopt this, or doing a newsletter, or you know, meeting with people, or auctions and things. But people really connected with that from another generation. So it really was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and I think we want to try to find ways to really acknowledge our supporters. And if this year has taught us anything, we're still very much in a difficult situation after this pandemic. And connecting with people on a digital scale was really a way for us to connect with more people. And we still have much more work to do, but I think the fact that we're talking about this as well with 2 different generations, I think some of this technology is also something that could be adopted in the future.
And I think also that's so true. And it's also about education and speaking and talking. And one of the things we have is the NF Castle presentation, and the conference we did is on our website, which is
Correct.
nfcastle.com.
Correct.
So you can see all of the talks, and there are a lot of open questions. But what was great about it was we were just all able to come together and talk about these things and the challenges as well going forward. But I think that's...
Yeah, the conference was a really important part of the entire piece because we wanted to learn from different people in the space, and we're quite new to this as well. And so we had people who came from the traditional art world, some people who were also skeptics of the space as well, and we had some people who came from the blockchain space. So it really led to a very animated conversation.
And I think that's a perfect way to sort of end our discussion about it, which is it's about bringing different worlds together, and I think that was definitely our mission. And I would say it was without a doubt mission accomplished. But there are many more things and more things we want to explore going forward. And this very much fits our messaging and what we do. And House of Lobkowitz, the 2 things we talk about is sharing the past, creating the future. And so I think NFTs couldn't be a better example of this. And we want to keep exploring these spaces and try to be innovative in a very challenging world. So thank you all for listening to our discussion. Thanks, Will. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time, and visit our website and you'll see more of the things that we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.